you to Angela and the leadership team and all of the staff for the work they've done and how they've made sure things keep happening here. And Angela, a special thank you to you for the list of instructions you sent us and suggestions, because they were very helpful to me, and I appreciated seeing them and being reassured on some of those. So those are the main comments I have this morning. I'm really pleased to see we're going to move on. At this stage, I would like to introduce and call on Matt Rudolph to say just a word. You've heard from him, but this is the first time you've actually seen him. Matt.
It's very nice to see all of your faces for the first time. Of course, conference calls are not exactly the best place to get to know people and chat. So I've heard all of your voices, so I look forward over the course of the meeting to putting those voices to a face. Really glad to be joining my colleague George DeRuse as a city representative here in South Nation. I've got a particular interest in conservation and environment. As I worked for an environment critic at the federal level for quite some time before the 2015 election. So very, very excited to be here with you. I'm a Canadian Forces veteran. I served in Afghanistan in 2008 and spent my time in rural Manitoba while I was there. So again, a particular interest in rural issues, and very pleased to be welcomed by you guys today. So thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Matt, and welcome.
Welcome.
And besides the people here, Matt, you're seeing some of the staff on screen, and one of our board members, Peggy, is on screen. Peggy, give us a wave. Can you give us a wave, Peggy, so that, there you go, Matt. Okay, thanks a lot. Now, Angela, do you want to say a word, introduce a couple of the extra people and say a word about how we're using the screen and how we're set up?
Okay, so first I think Carl's probably going to want to try and get in there with a couple of comments on the system, because I know it's particular to picking up certain noises. So Carl, do you want to walk us through what we shouldn't do, and then I'll introduce our guests?
Thank you. Yes, we're in a very unique situation, and we've done our best with the equipment that we have. The microphone is very sensitive to paper rustling and bangs and kind of high and low spectrum noises. It picks up voices nicely, so if you could really avoid kind of crinkling papers, shuffling papers as much as possible, the people online would really appreciate it. Our eardrums would appreciate it as well. I just wanted to add as well, we just had the general manager from Cataraqui, Katrina Ferlanetto, join us as a special guest on the call. She's on now.
Perfect. Okay, so good morning, Katrina from Angela, and I also want to introduce this morning, we have with us solicitor from Alton-Alt, Warren Leroy, who will help us with our election process, as well as Scott, sorry, can you say your last name?
Scott Hodgson.
Scott Hodgson from Baker Tilly now, is that what it is? Baker Tilly. And who also helps every year with our election in assuring that the ballot process is confidential and elections go as they're supposed to. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning, and everyone online and in the room. Good morning, and it's nice to see you all.
And I'm correct, this is being streamed live if anyone wishes to see it. Am I correct? To anyone that's in the audience?
That's correct, Mr. Smurl. We're live right now.
Thank you very much. All right, does anyone here have any questions, comments to make before we get right into the agenda? Seeing none, you've heard my remarks. Number 2, approval of the SNC Board of Directors main and supplemental agendas. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Doug, seconded by Michael. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a declaration they would wish to make at this stage?
I see hand up online, Peggy Taylor.
Peggy?
Hi. I submitted a form the other day. It's with respect to the Communications Committee minutes as the chair of that committee, and also a member of the community that has applied for some funding.
Thanks, Peggy. So that's the only one, and at the appropriate time, you will not be involved. Doug?
Chair, Bill, I have the Communications Committee. I'm with an organization that applied for a grant and was successful. So there's no pecuniary value to me, but I'll declare a conflict. Just
thank you. Anything further? Hearing none, Gosh, I have to look a lot farther afield to find everyone, and especially Pierre way back there in the corner, yeah. But I've got your eyes. So.
School days.
Okay, the SNC project update PowerPoint presentation by staff. And for Katrina, every meeting, we have an update by staff telling us what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how it fits into the budget, etc. And it's one of the things that helps keep our board really up to date and being able to
on various tree planting initiatives throughout the region. So we're looking forward to working with different community groups this fall and potentially into the spring to plant some more trees in public spaces. And next slide, please.
Sorry, John, just having a technical issue. It'll be up in a second.
That's okay. The next slide on deck is for our Ottawa fall tree giveaways that we have planned next month. You'll recall this spring we relaunched our popular municipal tree giveaway program with safe curbside pickups and online reservations. At the time when we ran the campaign in the spring, we weren't able to deliver the program in Ottawa. And so now with new public health measures in place, we have planned to do 2 small fall giveaways in the communities of Osgood and Finley Creek. So we've got a tentative date for October 7th, and once things are confirmed, we'll share details with you all as well. Next slide is on our fundraising plan for this fall. You'll recall that we did cancel our annual Friends of SNC golf tournament. And so we did work to replace it with an online art auction, which will be taking place through October. At this point, we're currently soliciting donations of artwork, but we're happy to report that we do have 12 pieces secured for this fundraiser. So we're really looking forward to it. It'll all take place online. And of course, once the fundraiser launches, we'll share details around on how to participate.
Questions, comments for John? Seeing none, moving on.
Chair, I think.
Oh, yes, Michael.
I think the art auction is a great idea, and I think it's doing it online is very sensible. So it's a great outside the box idea. So thank you.
Board members are all expected to do it.
You're right on, Michael.
That's right.
Thank you. Rhonda.
Good morning, everyone. Just a reminder that next Wednesday on the 23rd, we are hosting our Reconciliation and Climate Change Planting. It is a pre-registration requirement, so you should have all received an email invitation. We have open registration up to the public, so if you have other guests who would like to register, the registration is now open, and it will close at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. We have set a maximum at 75 participants. However, that number may change if the province announces new gathering restriction numbers later today. So we'll adjust as needed for that event.
And Rhonda, for people that are registered, you will be sending, or somebody will be sending maps and information about what to, how to, where to, and when to?
Yes, Mr. Chair. On Monday, we will send an information package to all the registered participants.
How many have registered so far? Are you aware?
The last number I saw was around 25-30, so we do have some space, but again, it'll depend on if there's additional gathering restriction numbers announced later today.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Rhonda. Michelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. East York Creek is a really nice system that flows through a couple of newer developments in Embrun. Russell Township owns land along the creek that has become a very popular recreational spot for the local community. So SNC staff visited the area with township staff last week to discuss some of their concerns and challenges. And these included erosion, encroachment, and unofficial trail development as the main issues that they're facing. And we're going to be providing expertise and support to help them tackle those issues. So this is a great project because it brings together multiple teams to provide practical solutions to restore and enhance this valued natural feature in the community. Our planning team has been instrumental in ensuring the existing and new developments are kept safely away from the creek and that the impacts to the creek from the developments are properly mitigated. Our engineering team are completing the important technical reviews that ensure the development is safe and kept away from any natural hazards. And they're also providing the required expertise related to the erosion repairs. Stewardship staff are also supporting the restoration work to improve the buffer along the creek and control the erosion where necessary. And our communications team has initiated the first project, which is a tree planting along the creek that will occur this fall. So the communications team is also going to support the landowner outreach and education, which is obviously a key component for this whole project moving forward. So we're very happy to be able to support our municipal staff, and we're very excited to see this work move ahead. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Rhonda, or thank you, Michelle. Moving on, Sandra.
Good morning, board members. It's nice to see you in the house. This picture shows is one of our municipal partnerships. You might remember last month the board approved to move forward with the low impact development project in partnership with the counties of Prescott and Russell. So the kickoff meeting took place yesterday, and it was attended by staff from the counties, SNC staff, and the consultant hired to complete the design, that is P2C. So we review the scope of the project, and it seems magnificent what they are preparing to do in the La Rose Forest. So we are looking forward to continue working with the counties.
Questions of Sandra? Seeing none, thank you very much, Sandra. And again, Sandra.
So you might recall that in 2017, South Nation obtained LiDAR along the St. Lawrence River in partnership with municipalities and counties. So with the potential extension of the National Disaster Mitigation Program, we are looking into future partnerships to complete the LiDAR for the full watershed. You can see in the map, bring your attention to the area that is yellow. That is the area in our watershed that does not have a current LiDAR. So we are working with the neighboring CS, and we are going to be approaching the municipalities in those areas to form a partnership to apply for the grant. In the slide, you have approximately square kilometers for each one of the municipalities that we are going to approach to have in the partnership. If you have any questions.
Looking around, I see one remark.
Yeah, I'm wondering, with that LiDAR mapping, I know there's been, have you had any contact with South Dundas about possibly making that presentation? We're back meeting in person again just within the last 2 meetings, but has there been any conversation between yourself and staff?
No, not yet, but I can talk to Shannon. Last time that I talked to Shannon was April, and he said that he would let us know when they were ready to have us for a presentation. This week I can give him a call and make the presentation for the next meeting or whenever there is time. I will.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Other questions? Seeing none. And just breaking in before I thank you very much, Sandra, but before I go on, I hope you do like I just did. I keep my phone usually on silent, but I've had it on ring for the last 6 months, and I just remembered to put it on mute and or on vibrate, and the second after I did it, it rang. So I did it at the right time. So if any of you haven't got your phones on mute, you may wish to so do. Thank you very much. Going on, Pat.
Good morning, everyone. Pat Pitts, Team Lead Property. Just a couple of pictures of our maintaining our natural spaces. The slides are the Bob Graham Recreational Trail, and it shows a before and after installation and replacement of culverts.
Questions? Thank you very much, Pat. Rhonda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've had a busy few weeks with tree planting site visits. I'm happy to announce that the numbers are very strong this year for landowners wishing to plant seedlings in spring of 2020. You may recall seeing a press release where we've set an ambitious target of 200,000 trees for 2021. I'm happy to report that we're well on our way to hitting that target. Currently, Cheyenne has 136,400 seedlings reserved. She's still working on about another dozen site visits, and calls are still coming in. So we really do think it is an achievable target for 2021.
Questions? Thank you very much, Rhonda. Going on to, again, Pat.
Yes, the slide is of a treatment that we're doing to combat the emerald ash borer. The chemical is called triazine. It's a systemic pesticide which is injected into the tree. The amount injected is based on the diameter of the tree, and what happens is as the insect infects the tree, it encounters a pesticide and is killed. We've only done this in McIntosh Park. This was one of the conservation areas where it made sense to do this. The trees are much smaller and the infestation is just in its beginning stages. In our other parks, the trees are much larger. The cost of treating those trees would be more expensive, and the diseases or the insect infestations are much more advanced.
Thank you, Pat. Pat, give us an idea of what the cost might be for a 6 or 8 inch or a different size tree, just so we have some concept.
Of the 17 trees we treated, it was about $300 per tree.
And they would be 6 to 8 inches in diameter or something like that?
That's correct. That's correct.
Any further questions? Yes, Steve.
Thanks, Pat. Just one question. If the ash borer is killed, is the tree preserved, or does that tree is that tree likely to become infected, and we're just preventing future infestations in other trees?
It's an ongoing treatment. We'll have to look at this park again in 2 years' time.
Doug, you had a question?
Yes, I have a question. I'd just like, perhaps Pat, could you indicate to the board what you're doing for trees that are dead that are on South Nation property? I think you mentioned this at our last committee meeting.
Yes, we're going to our parks, inspecting the condition of all the trees, not just the ash trees. When we find an issue that's related to public safety in the park, we have to make a decision on whether we can mitigate the condition, as in the slide here where we're treating for an insect problem, or whether we have to remove the tree. If we remove the tree, then it's the next step is to replace that tree so that we have permanent forest cover in our parks.
Further questions? Yes, supplementary?
There have been concerns about on private property the number of trees that are dead or along roadways. Is there a plan to discuss this with property owners or municipal governments about how to deal with this issue? Because if you drive down some roads, you can see a lot of dead trees that should be looked after.
I know many of the municipal governments are looking at their roadside trees and have an active program to remove those hazardous trees and to plant trees along the roadsides. Both the United Council, SDNG, and Prescott Russell and the City of Ottawa have active tree planting programs along the roadsides. In terms of private land, of course, we have our own program with the Emerald Ash Borer tree replacement program, and I think Rhonda could talk to that more effectively.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat. I can just add for the board's information that the residential program is currently only offered through the City of Ottawa through a special levy. We've had a couple of inquiries from other municipalities on that program, so we provided that. What we can do is recirculate the memo to all municipalities, and if there's interest in any municipalities starting a similar program, then we can certainly have that discussion.
And if I could add, I think it's really important that we, who are members here and our committee members, speak with the various councils in our areas, because as I drive along and as you drive along the roads now, there are dozens of ash trees that have died and need of something done with them. And I intend to make a presentation to North Dundas Council asking if they will do something like the City of Ottawa. Not sure how it will be received, but I think it's really important that we in our municipalities start looking at this, because we're in conservation. We have to, part of conservation is getting rid of or taking down the trees that are damaged or that are a problem. and replacing them. So that's the direction I'm going to go, and I strongly recommend each of you consider sharing that information with your municipalities and committees. I've suggested to them already that that's a good direction. Question for Pat regarding the removal of trees, etc. You're going to evaluate all of the properties we have, but will you have sufficient staff to do that, or would that have to be contracted out regarding removing some of these trees? And will we hear something like that in the 21 budget?
Both situations. We have qualified staff to remove trees, and where that is beyond our internal capacity, we do contract out.
Thank you. Francois.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smart. Okay, maybe it's not for a question for Pat, but maybe Angela. And municipalities will have to look at the risk mitigation too we'll have. Maybe the trees are just dying now, but in a few years they'll be getting weaker, and then if we don't do anything, I'm gonna bring it up. My municipalities, are you aware? And then let's find out we're all into mitigating risks, and that's gonna be part of it. It's not a risk right now because they're half dead, but once I could see in about 5 years, they'll in a windstorm, they'll be falling all over the place. I'm thinking roadways, private properties. I don't think we have the financial wherewithal to do it much better. Thank you.
And as well as that, there will be the danger of fire as time goes on over the next number of years. Last question, Pat. 3 years ago, we had an experimental program tried where some wasps were released in a few areas to see if they would, and then the idea was they're a very miniature type of wasp that would lay their eggs on the larva of the ash beetle and cause them to die. Have we gotten any research on how that project is going yet, or when might we expect to hear?
The research is still being analyzed. Last year, after 3 years of putting out, releasing wasps into 2 sites on our forest, a harvest was done of some of the trees in those areas to see how effective the release program was. Those insects were incubated in the lab in January, and we're still waiting for the results of those reports.
Thank you, Pat. And we're not picking on you, Pat. It's just that there's a lot of interest in this area. So thank you for those comments. Going on with, I think it's Pat again.
Yes, just a slide on the our working forest. Our forest properties have economic value, and we're beginning a busy season of harvesting on many of our properties. The pictures is just some of the preparation that we do in advance of harvesting. It shows an area where we've replaced a culvert. The culvert was placed there about 60 years ago when the management on the properties first started, and it was there and used during the first thing that we did in about 20 years ago, and we're now back again. And of course, we found that the culvert has deteriorated to the point where it needed to be replaced. The harvest is starting this month, and it's in South Dundas, and we've got a new entrance permit put on one of the properties, and of course this culvert that was replaced on the second property.
Questions of Pat? Pretty straightforward, but Archie, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe, Pat, that's up near God's country called Holbert, right down Holbert Road. I think there's a real fine individual living on that road. I think I've seen the truck in there unloading, so they're starting now, are they?
That's correct.
No, that's me.
We assume that.
Well, how long will that harvest take, Pat?
They'll be there about 4 or 5 weeks on the one property, and then moving over to the second. So in total, the 2 properties will take just about 2 months.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Going on, Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As most of you are aware, the housing market is very active right now, so we thought it might be a good time to remind everyone we do offer a property inquiry service, and it's quite a popular service. We've issued about 40 letters already this year. These letters help people confirm development potential for their lands. Specifically, we give information on natural hazards and regulated areas, which is obviously something you want to know before you decide to purchase a property. So this is a service that you can contact our front desk. It's generally Laura providing these letters. Sometimes we offer site visits if that's needed, and it's all done on a cost recovery basis.
Questions of Michelle? Yes.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, do all participating municipalities, townships, cities, do they, from their township office, do they automatically refer anybody that's coming into the office to do an investigation on a property? Do they automatically refer them over to South Nation for to have their area looked at and what they're looking at? Because if they don't, they should.
Yeah, actually, with the county's GIS services that they provide out to the local municipalities, we've been able to get all of our regulated areas up on those GIS portals, and that really helps local municipal staff know when to send folks our way. Sometimes if they just need verbal information, there's no charge for that, but if they're looking for that piece of paper kind of with everything written out for them, that's where we refer them into property inquiry and charge a small fee for that.
I have a couple of questions, starting with Michael.
Hi, Allison. Allison, would you do me a favor? I'm presenting at the what is now the East Region Solicitors Conference at the end of the month. It'll be a Zoom conference now instead of an in-person conference. But I'm presenting on title searching and what to look out for and tips and strategies. So there'll be over 200 solicitors attending that conference. So can you send me maybe just a one-pager on this service, and I will include it in my recommendations to solicitors to make sure they remember to make sure their client is aware of this service and that they make inquiries, particularly when their clients have development opportunities. I certainly do it as my practice, but I can't say every solicitor does, and so I really try to hammer it home. But if you could include that, it'll be a little bit of extra promotion for this program for this year.
Absolutely.
Steve?
Thanks, Allison. We know that the real estate market is incredibly hot right now, and it's a quick turnaround. So I'm just wondering what the average turnaround time is for this type of inquiry to have the letter actually produced.
So we're operating on sort of the best we can when it comes to service right now, as probably most municipal staff are. But I think the simple ones we get out in sort of 3 to 5 days. Generally, everyone wants something today. So we actually do our best to respond to clients' needs. If they need something tomorrow, we will try to get it tomorrow if we can. If we can't, then we give them a realistic timeline, which is usually 3 to 5 days, which I think is still incredibly fast by industry standards. Where it gets complicated is if we need to talk to multiple members of our engineering team. So it could take up to like sort of 7 business days, but very much so on a triage basis right now, trying to ask people when they need things and then meet that timeline for them. That's kind of what we found is the best way to move through this, like you said, very busy time.
Michael, supplementary?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Densham, Member Densham. I can tell you, Steve, just from my own experience, very recently I had a client who was purchasing a vacant piece of land in this region, and they did write to South Nation, and I can tell you the response time was very quick. And I mean, they only had a 7-day conditional period for all of their conditions, and the response was certainly well within that time, and the client had a much better appreciation of where they could actually realistically build on the vacant piece of land and where there was regulated watershed areas that they could not build on. And they still proceeded with the purchase. But you're absolutely right. I can tell you as a real estate lawyer, I'm not used to how cutthroat it's getting. And we're definitely seeing a lot more, in my opinion, kind of beyond the pale behavior of some sellers, where if you're a buyer and you make so much as one little slip up, they'll sell it to someone else. And it's a bit astonishing. I jokingly used to say that behavior was more like Toronto, Mississauga, but we're seeing it here in Ottawa. And I know I recently had a report that just over, I think, in the space of a month, the increase in price of homes was like 6% in the space of a month, which is just insane. I think it's 18% year over year right now. So there's obviously some sort of spike occurring on that level too.
Thank you very much, Michael. I don't see any further questions, but I want to comment that Allison, thank you for the speed in which you're addressing these and the care with which you're taking as you address. This has been a concern that we've heard over the years, not necessarily from here, but it's one that we're addressing well, so thank you. Having said that, going on to Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're working with the City of Clarence-Rockland on an exciting new development project in the community of Clarence Creek. And I'm actually, I've been able myself to dabble in a little bit of planning, so it's nice to learn from Allison and the planning team on this one. So this is a drawing of a new long-term care home that will be constructed. It's the Centre d'accueil Roger Séguin. So the existing care home in the community no longer meets the new provincial standards, and the most cost-effective solution for that, for their board, was to build a new facility. So SNC became involved in the project early on through the pre-consultation process. We met with the municipality, the proponent, and their consultant to discuss the project and outline the required steps to see it through the approvals process. We also went out on site to look at the natural features present and discuss potential site constraints. And in this case, there's a watercourse that runs along the western boundary of the site and a woodlot on the eastern boundary. So because we invested the time into pre-consultation, we were able to work with the proponent to keep a minimum 20-meter buffer along the watercourse, and the woodlot's going to remain completely intact. So this demonstrates the value of pre-consultation, where an important development for the community can proceed smoothly with minimal impact on the natural environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Doug?
I had a question for Michelle, but it wasn't related to this. Michelle, since we have you there, I just had a question. I spoke to you about the damage to the stone bridge at Shields Creek in Greeley. Just wondered if you had a chance to go up to assess if there's any damage to the creek.
Yeah, so we are actually heading out to that site. I believe it's next week, so we're going to take a look and see what the creek looks like, and then I've also passed it on to park staff at the City of Ottawa as well.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, moving on, and we're having Sandra again.
I cannot see my slide. There it is. Thank you, Carol. This is just an update in the watershed conditions. So as you know, the watershed was under level 2 watershed conditions in June and July. So due to the conditions have improved due to the rain that we received in the last couple of months. And right now, this map shows how we are as today. So the headwaters of the South Nation watershed remains in a level 1 condition. However, we think that we are receiving more rain and the temperature is lower. So we think that by the end of September, these conditions could be terminated and we will have the full watershed in normal conditions. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Sandra. And I might say as well that we've recognized, this committee has recognized that over the last few years, rain and showers are very sprinkled or moved around throughout the area. There may be a heavy rain in one area and a couple miles away, there's nothing. And so this was recognized when the watershed was divided into 3 or 4 different areas, and we actually assigned different levels to the different areas depending on what the results of our investigations showed. So that's new in my information. Okay, thank you very much. Sandra, moving on, you again.
In this slide, what I wanted to highlight is that we are still, the staff is continue developing applications to automatize process and increase employees' productivity. In this case, they are developing a survey 123. This is the name of the application, and it's for the dam operators. The application will automatically capture the data collected at the dam during operations and during inspections, and store all that data in our water integration system. That will reduce the effort of the employees spending preparing reports when they come to the office, and it's an optimization of time and in all activities in general. We are also talking with Water Survey Canada, and we are there is a new technology, radar technology, that we would like to install in the stream gauge that we have downstream of the dam, and we are chatting with them about how that can happen. I will keep you informed. This is a new technology, and we don't have any of our gauges are radar connected right now. So we are learning about it, and I'll bring more information when I know more about it.
Thanks, Sandra. And you're all aware that we have several structures in the river along the way, and weirs and dams, and the one in Chesterfield is the largest.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Going on, Carl.
Good morning again. This is an update on the report that I brought last month regarding HVAC system, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system review. We've since engaged Miraton Engineering, an independent HVAC engineering company out of Ottawa, and they're working alongside a air balancing company and air quality company to do a thorough review of our HVAC system. We'll be measuring air changes per hour, carbon dioxide. They'll be comparing the current installation against the engineered plans and providing a series of recommendations with costing for either for any necessary improvements that they find out of their review.
What's the timeline, Carl?
They did the initial inspection yesterday, so we had about 3 staff on site in the building yesterday doing thorough inspection, and we're expecting the report in about 2 weeks' time.
So this will be able to be implemented as the board sees necessary in our 21 budget?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, I see no other questions. Thank you very much, Carl. Going on, Rhonda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may recall about this time last year, we had video crews from Ontario Power Generation visit our watershed. They were here to film some of the project sites that we've done with OPG through the Regional Biodiversity Program for the last several years. I'm happy to announce that finally one of the videos has been launched. It is a video featuring our own Chris Craig talking about our edible buffers project. So that is on a YouTube channel that we can forward. I don't believe we're going to show the video today because I don't know if technology will work, and it's also a little bit long. It's about 3 minutes and 42 seconds, but we can share that link with board members if you'd like to watch that video.
Okay, and we'll see it at a future time?
Sure, if we
I can play it if you wish. We should be able to play it, but it's up to it's down to the time limit, I guess.
Wish it now or later?
Later.
Later, I think is fine, Carl. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think we're interested in it, and we'll see it later. And I think that moves us on, and that's the last event. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I probably was remiss in this, but I'll now address to Katrina. Were you able to, I hope, see our presentation as we presented it? And I would ask if you wish to make a comment or two as being a guest today.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was able to see your presentation. That went really well, and I like the format where staff is able to present to their board on the multiple projects, and we'll be taking that back for consideration at our board as well. I appreciate the opportunity to again participate at the meeting, and it seems that the in-person hybrid approach that you have is working really well. So we'll be taking some of those notes back to our team, and again, I think it's been going great. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for those comments. Michael.
Katrina, am I correct that you are with the Cataraqui Region Conservation Program, correct?
Yes, I'm the general manager at the Cataraqui Conservation.
Well, I'm a former board member, so it's great to see you. Anyway, I don't know if I was there between 2003 and 2006, but it was a great group then, and it was Bill Warwick and then Steve Nechtel, who were the general managers at that time. So anyway, it's great.
Thank you very much. Anything further? Thanks, Katrina. Anything further? Seeing none, we're moving on to A, the Board of Directors meeting minutes of August 20th, 2020, and of course they were virtual minutes. So looking for a motion of approval. Moved by Danielle, seconded by Jerry. Discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor? Carried. Number B, SNC committee meeting minutes or highlights, etc. And we have 4 of them, and I'm going to suggest we deal with them with one motion. Is that agreeable? Okay, water response team meeting of August. You have all this information and you have had a chance to peruse it. The water response team meeting of August 13th, 2020. Sandra's kind of reported on that, but any further comments, Sandra?
No, at this time, thank you.
Number 2, Forestry Committee meeting of September 1st, Rhonda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, the meeting minutes are in your package. If you have any questions, I'll just remind the board that our committees do continue to meet virtually at this time.
And I might add that different committee members have asked me if they're able to meet and when in person. And I told them that we were trying our September meeting in person, that we would be evaluating it, that no committees would be scheduled at this time. We would be evaluating it and making decisions and sharing information with them over the next month or 2. So nothing is out of the question, but we're not moving too quickly. We want to evaluate carefully what's happening over the next couple of months. Number 3, Fish and Wildlife. Again, Rhonda.
Again, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any on the minutes that are in your package.
Any questions? Seeing none. Number 4, Joint Occupational Health and Safety meeting of September the 2nd.
Same thing, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions that may be on the minutes.
And you may have noted that a couple of the items were referred for a final report to the next meeting.
One more, let's see Peggy's hand up.
I'm sorry?
Peggy got her hand up.
Peggy, yes, thank you.
So my question is with respect to the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee. The resolution JOHS 02920 with respect to the Gossamer hawk. Sorry, just wondering, do we have because I don't remember seeing them signs posted at any of the hiking areas that notify participants about the potential interaction with wildlife and don't feed the coyotes and things like that will keep them safe. I don't know what you do to protect yourself from a hawk, but anyway.
Mr. Chair, I'll pass that question over to John.
Sure, and we don't have cautionary signs for regular wildlife feeding and that sort of thing, but anytime there's an issue like this with an aggressive hawk in our parks, which occurred in Warwick, we do post signs right away. And anytime this sort of incident happens, we actually close the specific trail. So in this specific case, part of the trail was closed for 3 weeks and signs were posted at all entrances and parking lots.
Supplementary, Peggy?
Yeah, just wondering if it would be prudent maybe to just at the entrance of any park that we have a wildlife awareness information piece to let people know, that they are entering an area where they shouldn't be feeding, and how to report if anything happens.
Sure, we can explore options for some of that messaging, but in terms of permanent signs or facilities to let people know about that, we probably wouldn't go too far down that path, but we can look into it, Peggy.
Thank you.
Archie, did you have a question?
Can we not just put up, use an own risk? I mean, it seems so ridiculous. You're walking through the forest, you know, if a skunk comes out and sprays you, what are they gonna do? Come back for, you know, sue South Nation? You know, I think people gotta take a little responsibility for their own actions, you know, if they're tromping around, you know. It just seems a little, you know, every time something happens, I know the liability issue, but, you know, come on. I mean, put up a sign, use an own risk and let them. They want to trip over a dead tree because they didn't see it and they didn't pick their feet up, well, not my problem.
We, if I can comment, Mr. Chair, I mean, we appreciate your comments, Mr. Mellon. And what we often do, or do our best anyways, is to share some of these messages online. So whether it be around tripping hazards with fallen trees or aggressive hawks in our parks, I mean, we do post every day and we use that medium to share some of those messages as opposed to permanent signage.
And just to be clear, I am not suggesting we take responsibility for the things that can happen there, but just that people should not think they can come back on us, and that's what my question is a bit, basically. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much, and John, thank you. Education is always important. Thank you. And if it's necessary, then we do it. All right. And also, there have been 2 other meetings over the last week that were too recent to report on. So all of the committees have met during the first 2 weeks of September. It's been a very, very busy month to date, all virtually, and those reports will come to you later. So you have the 4 reports in front of you, looking for a motion of approval before them. Moved by Doug, seconded by Francois. Discussion on any? All those in favor? Carried. New business. Request for approval of the 2020 annual general meeting approvals. And Angela, shall I deal with this or are you dealing with this?
The report on 37?
Yes.
Okay, I can handle that for sure, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
See if this, if everyone can hear me okay, I will go without the microphone. I don't see the light going on. So the report this morning for you is on page number 37 of your agenda package. As you know, there's a number of things that happen at or before the annual general meeting each year. I've listed in the report on 37 some of those things with the subsequent election to follow in the next report. So as you may recall or may not, if you don't recall, it's right there for you. We've appointed the auditor for the upcoming year in January. Board resolution is listed. The solicitors were appointed in January as well, and that was by resolution that's listed. And then we did directors to the standing committees virtually on May 21st. And we also approved the audited financial statements on May 21st. We have proper board resolutions. Simply what I'm asking you today is just that we endorse those things as we've done today at the official annual general meeting.
So looking for a motion of approval, moved by George, seconded by Pierre. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. All right, moving on to item number 6B, and election procedures. And I guess I would turn this over to you now, Angela, or do you wish me to take a motion that we move into that? To you, I think.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will pass, we have an election procedure that we go through each time we do this. Again, the report is provided to you, and the first part of the election is that we simply request that the board of directors via this report appoint myself, Angela Coleman, general manager, secretary, treasurer, as the acting chair for these purposes at this time. So I would ask, Mr. Chair, that you entertain that resolution, and then once completed, I will take the chair. And same seats, just for anyone's.
We're looking for a motion.
We're going to stay in the same seat.
Moved by Doug, seconded by Steve. Discussion? In favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Then, Angela, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have the report before you, and we have with us today, as I mentioned, both Scott and Warren to assist with the purposes of the election. So the first thing I'm going to do this morning is start with the process, and you know what I'll actually do is I'll read it the way I normally do so that everyone, because we do have some new people in the room, so I just want to make sure that it's clear for everyone. So under the report here, you'll see that Section 17.1 of the Conservation Authorities Act mandates that the chair and the vice chair be appointed annually, and that our bylaws at 15.1 state that the election of the chair and vice chair shall occur every year at or prior to the annual general meeting. And as the acting chair, and in the interest of timeliness and efficient running of this election, I will solicit nominations from board members for the chair and then the vice chair positions, one following the other. If only one nomination is made for each of the respective spots, there will be a global motion to approve the nominated chair, nominated vice chair, and appointment of the past chair, which is de facto. That would be one global motion of the board. A global motion, however, will only work if there are not multiple nominations for the chair and or vice chair positions. If multiple nominations are made for these positions, I will conduct separate votes and subsequent affirming votes and motions on each position using the procedures that we've outlined. So to begin, I will, as acting chair, declare that all positions of the board are vacant according to our administrative bylaws. Next, I'm going to be calling for nominations for the position for the election of chair 3 times. So I'll start by doing that now by calling for nominations for the position of chair. Michael Brown.
Acting chair, I nominate George DeRuse as chair.
And I will note that the nomination does not require a seconder. However, I do ask that the person that's named, Mr. DeRuse, do you wish to stand for office for the position of chair?
Yes.
Mr. DeRuse allows his name to stand. I'm calling again for nominations. This is my second call for nominations for the position of chair. Do I have nominations for the position of chair? So that's nomination for the position of chair going once, twice, and do I have any third call for nominations for the position of chair of the Conservation Authority for 2021? Okay, seeing none, I have one nomination for the position of chair. I'm going to now call for the closing of nominations for the position of chair, which does require a mover and a seconder. Can I call now at this time for nominations for moving of the closing position of chair? I have Matt Lulaw, seconded by Jerry Counts. Okay. So I'm closing nominations. I have a mover and seconder. I'm now moving to the position of vice chair.
Do we have to vote now?
So I'm calling now for nominations for the position of vice chair. Danielle Lafar.
Pierre Leroux.
I have one nomination for the position of vice chair. Pierre Leroux. Monsieur Leroux, do you wish to allow your name to stand?
I do.
Thank you. So I'm calling a second time for nominations to the position of vice chair. Do I have nominations for the position of vice chair going twice? Nomination for the position of vice chair going 3 times. Okay. Okay, so at this time we have one nomination that's been duly accepted for the position of vice chair. I'm closing the nominations for the position of vice chair, and I ask you at this time for a motion to do that. Moved by Michael Brown, seconded by, I've got a whole bunch of hands. I've got Danielle Lafleur. Okay, so we have closing nominations, and it looks like for this year, approval of the following motion. As I read it, we're going to have this motion going forward that for the year 2021, and until the annual for the year 2020, and until the annual general meeting of 2021, Mr. George Drews be elected as chair of SNC, and that Mr. Pierre Leroux be elected as vice chair of SNC, and that de facto past chair become Mr. Bill Smurl. So the chair, vice chair, and past chair will assume their offices after this, but will stay in the same seats. And we still need a motion though to do that. Okay, so for the election rules, we have full motion coming from Michael Brown, seconded by Councillor Luloff, Matt Luloff. And we're staying in the same seats.
Madam Acting Chair, since this is my swan song as past chair and member of the board, I'd like the opportunity to say a few words before I depart my seat.
I don't know if I've lost my chair, but if I'm still the chair, but I would welcome.
You're doing a good job.
I would welcome.
I'm just going to move over here, so because I hate to talk to people in my back, so I'll just over here. You don't mind if I sit closer to you, Bill?
Not at all. And Madam Chair, I'd suggest that in the case of, well, okay, let me move around a little bit, and maybe George, you want to move to the corner a bit so you can see who's behind you.
Anyway, I want
to come to the other corner.
You can see everyone better, probably.
Yeah, and George, you might want to just come to the corner so you can see the floor. And I support not moving into other people's seats because of what we're facing.
We're 6 country feet apart now.
2 meters.
Anyway, I want to begin by thanking the entire staff, past and present, for their support and dedication during my 19 years and 9 months on the SNC Board of Directors. And I guess there's no pin for 19, but 9 months.
Well, we'll see.
I was close to 20, but didn't make
it. We'll see. That's
okay. I hope that my time has been an inspiration to you. Certainly, it's been a continual inspiration for me during my time here. To past and current board members, our conservation authorities become one of the premier groups in Ontario. The dedication and support by, as I said, past and present board members has been truly remarkable. During my tenure as councillor and mayor of the former township of Osgood, as well as councillor of Osgood Ward, SNC has been one of the most proficient organizations that I've been working during those 31 years. And even prior to my election as councillor of the township of Osgood many years ago, the township of Osgood and SNC were quite remarkable in their availability to work together. As part of my dedication to SNC, it's been an honor to be a member of each of the committees, a member of the Ottawa Clean Rural, Ottawa Clean Water Committee. I served as vice chair, chair, and past chair of the organization. As well, I had the honor and privilege of being elected for 2 terms as a board member to the Conservation Ontario. I think that is one of the few times that from this area that we've had a representative from to sit on 2 consecutive terms in Conservation Ontario. Following my retirement from Ottawa City Council in 2014, I was honored to be selected by Councillor Leroux and his committee to represent the City of Ottawa on the SNC board. In 2018, I again applied to the City of Ottawa for a reappointment to represent the City of Ottawa. Unfortunately, my qualifications, I guess, had deteriorated, and I was not selected to sit on the board representing the City of Ottawa, but have had the opportunity since then to, because of turnovers, to sit as past chair of this organization. I wanted to say to outgoing Chair Bill, you have shown such dedication and professional attitude. It's beyond reproach, and your work ethic is truly remarkable. And I know Bill and I sat on the ROMA board, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Board of Directors, and Bill was one of the few members who would come to the meetings with his agenda out of the envelope and a lot of handwritten material over his pages. To the SNC board, I wish you great success. It's an incredible organization here, and it's really an honor for me, and I know for you to, when you're out, to say that you're a member of the board of directors of this organization, because SNC is very highly respected, not only in Eastern Ontario, but I think across the province and perhaps a good part of Canada. My intention is to fully remain on the SNC committees and hopefully at some point reacquire my time to get my 20-year pin. In parting, it is difficult for me to keep secrets, but I do have one that I have to keep. But when you leave an organization, they say, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. And recently, I received an email to see if I was interested in public appointment. And I thought it was some kind of scam. So I called the person, and in fact, my name had been put forward for a public appointment with a higher level of government. I went through a very vigorous vetting process, and fortunately for me, I passed. But I've been sworn to secrecy. There are a couple of people who have to sign off. And I was told, Diane maybe not put this in the minutes, but I was told if I speak about it that my appointment might be in jeopardy. But it's really interesting that this appointment will in some ways allow me to work with this area of the province, including much of SNC. So I will be around in another category, and to be very excited about working with SNC if I get the signatures that I need for this appointment. So with that, I was telling Bill, I was talking to Bill the other day that my brother and I are building a little storage spot in my place, and fortunately for him, my time here will allow me to get home and help him out. So with that, I will leave you. And
I don't know if you do like on the top and the bottom.
well, I thought we could do a little tick here. It's okay.
Okay, for something.
Anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Then, Mr. Chair, thank you, and I would like the opportunity to say just a couple of words as well. And you know, Doug and I don't have the same speechwriter, so I think we both observed the same things about South Nation over the years. It's been my honor and pleasure to have had the opportunity to serve on the executive, on the board of South Nation for the last 3 terms. I've had 3 4-year terms, and I'm in my 4th term now. You've given me the opportunity of being a member of your executive for the last 3 3/4 years. And I've been your chair for the last 3 3/4 years, and I've been on the executive for the last 8+ years. This has been an experience that I shall always remember and treasure. And I say this because our authority is second to none. And it's second to none because of the dedication and leadership of our staff, the decisions and recommendations of our committees. Equally importantly and noteworthy are the contributions of our volunteers, and never to be forgotten is the sincerity with which each of you comes to the meetings and deals with every issue and every problem that we have. I'm so proud to have had the opportunity to work with and be challenged by all of the things that you believe and you have suggested over the years. So all of these things are recognized by our residents, and I think that's credit to you as well. So sincerest thanks for challenging me, giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to continuing on the executive for the next couple of years at least, and we'll see what the future holds after that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill, and it's good morning, everyone. My name is George Aruz. I'm city councillor from Osgood Ward, and I will go back to what council has too bad Doug left, but I mean, he was serving on the South Nation, representing Osgood all along in the last 19 years, and I'm hoping that he passed the torch for me to be able to represent Osgood and Ottawa and all our neighboring municipality in the good work and great work Conservation Authority does in our community. We do have, of course, 3 of them, but I'm biased and I'm always part of the South Nation Conservation Authority for a long time. I want to thank the board member. It's very strange time for us to be meeting in this format, but it's been great also to be able to see each other and to look each other in to our faces, not in virtual, but also I want to also thank all the staff and everyone who joining us virtually today, this morning, specifically for our AGM, for our meeting here this morning in Finch. I want to thank staff, Angela, of course, and your team for all the hard work you've been doing. And I want to really appreciate all the hard work in the last 6-7 months, especially in this unprecedented time that not only our organization, but many other organizations are facing, that how we were able to pull together, work together, and we are here today because of all the great staff and great people we have. They're supporting us. This work will not go unnoticed. The board, I'm speaking on behalf of the board, they appreciate all the work you've done, and we're looking forward to continuing that work to be able to support you and keep the conservation moving forward. I want to thank Bill. Your inspiration to me. You taught me lots of stuff in the last 3.5 years, and me representing of the board. It's been amazing serving with you and Doug, and I learned a lot. And if you think that you're only past chair, you're wrong, because the vice chair, Pierre and I, we have lots of projects for you to keep moving forward and working with you, and instrumentally that we need always your advice. So thank you very much for doing what you've done in the last more than a decade on South Nation, and your work has been incredibly, and you were a pillar. And actually, every time I speak to somebody outside the organization, and the minute I mention South Nation, they said, you know, Bill Smart. So here we go. So thank you very much, and we appreciate your working with us, and we're very happy to have you as a team. I also want to thank Scott and Warren for being here with us this morning. Thank you very much for coming all the way here and participating with our masks, and social distancing for being able to do this election. I just also want to thank the board for putting your trust in me, and I really appreciate all the work you've been doing. And together, through this pandemic and through this difficult time, I am sure we have lots of work ahead of us. All municipalities are facing challenges. All municipalities are in deficit, but together, working together, we want to make sure that our dollar is being protected and making sure our organization moving forward. Thank you very much for trusting in me, and I'm looking forward to work with all of you in 2020-2021. I also want to thank Vice Chair Pierre Leroux for accepting the position and working side by side by me. I'm really looking forward to be working with you, and I'm really looking forward to have all these challenges, you and I together. I leave the floor for you to say a few words, Mr. Vice Chair, if you want.
Sure, thank you very much. I'll just say that I echo the thoughts of previous speakers. I'm somebody who believes in, who values time and efficiency, so I'll simply say thank you very much to everyone for your confidence, and I look forward to working with the chair and the past chair and learning from both your experiences on the executives. Thank you very much. Oh, I'll just add, it's a pleasure to be back in the room with Archie over there, because I missed that.
You may not miss me after a while.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair, and I really want to also, before I close my speech, I want to thank all the board members here or virtually. I know, Peggy, sorry we can't see you, but we can wave at you from here. Thank you very much for taking the time this morning to coming. It's so nice to see you here. I want to thank my colleague, Councillor Rudolph, for taking the time driving from Orleans to be here with us today. I know there will be a by-election coming up into Cumberland Ward, and we will have a new board member, but we really appreciate the time you serve on our board. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. We'll move forward with the meeting, I guess.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just briefly, I just wanted to say, I think it's important to also note that I can't say with absolute certainty, but as I walk through the hallway there and I see the faces of the different chairs, I do think it's a testament to South Nation's commitment to diversity that you've been selected as chair. This is, I think, a first, if I'm not mistaken. I know, George, from your website, you immigrated to Canada. You built a life here, you built a family, you built business, you've become an incredibly successful member and a valued member of your community. And I really want to congratulate you. So I know we have social distancing, but I'm going to come and give you an elbow bump, okay?
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, George.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Now let's get to business.
You got it. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Election duties another time. Mr. Chair, I think we have all of the resolutions we needed from that report, which brings us to the next report on page number 43. Looking forward to hearing about Conservation Ontario delegates.
Okay, so we are on C, request for approval, Conservation Ontario voting delegate. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My report is on page 43. And this is the regular appointment for voting directors to Conservation Ontario. Recommendation in the report is that SNC's chair, as well, the board of directors appoint SNC chair as Conservation Ontario voting delegate, with SNC's vice chair as alternate and general manager, secretary, treasurer as second alternate. Discussion, if you wish.
Yeah. Discussion, please go ahead, Mike.
Very briefly, I think last year, and I think it doesn't hurt, I think we added general manager, secretary, treasurer, or past chair as a second alternate.
May I comment? Sorry, I think, yes, we did not do that. We added it, but Conservation Ontario only recognizes 3.
Okay.
And so therefore, although we may have mentioned before, Conservation Ontario did stick with 3.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop us from participating, and Bill will go on Conservation Ontario with us to Toronto and participate in all the meetings.
No,
Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So we need a mover and a seconder. Francois and Danielle seconder. Discussion, I think we've already discussed it. On the motion? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. D, we have a request for approval floodplain open house consultation plan. It's John's going to give us a presentation, but let's have a first and seconder before we move into discussion and let Bill, seconded by Michael Brown. John, floor is yours.
Thank you. So my report can be found on pages 44 and 45, Mr. Chair, but we do have some attachments for information that run through to page 52 on your agenda package. This isn't a regular report we would bring to you, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the situation we're in, we wanted to provide an update on our engagement plan for our floodplain open houses. So you'll recall that we are required through legislation to provide public notices and consult with residents affected by any floodplain or erosion hazard maps that we wish to update. Generally, this engagement takes place through an open house that we host in the participating community. But because of the current situation, we are proposing some alternative tactics that are outlined on page 47 of your agenda package. And this is to use an online medium to host our online engagement and to do some of our letters and notices a little bit differently. So we are proposing to circulate notices to all residents affected by any updated natural hazard maps. But instead of providing our usual draft study maps, we are proposing to provide all residents with a copy of the draft floodplain and erosion map direct to their home. With this notice, we then wish to proceed with a public open house through an online platform, either Microsoft Teams or Zoom, for residents to tune in and learn a little bit more about how these updated maps will affect their property. And as an alternative to our usual one-on-one consultations, which we have with residents during our open houses, we're instead proposing to do one-on-ones through a 2-week period with anyone interested in chatting with us further. And these can be done either online or in person, depending on the individual's wishes and needs. So it's a little bit different than what we would usually propose. So we wanted to bring it to the board for approval. I will note, though, that this consultation plan that's attached to the report has been shared with our neighboring conservation authorities, as well as the City of Ottawa and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, so that we can make sure that we were consistent and that these updates were consistent with the policy intent for public consultation. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, John, and I saw the report. You had a very detailed explanation on the report. I'll read the recommendation, then we'll see if there is question for John. The recommendation, the Board of Direction approve SNC's update public consultation plan for hosting virtual natural hazard mapping open houses online due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Any question or any comment for John? On recommendation?
I see a question from Board Member Taylor.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep my eye on that Zoom. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yes, I'm here. I'm probably the only lady that's not in the room, gentlemen. The question, it's actually a comment. I'm just really glad to see that John, when he put this together, thought of maintaining face-to-face opportunities for residents as well, because although the age is here for technology, not everybody uses it. So that's good to see. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I agree with you. Thank you very much, Peggy. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. I see that when we're highlighting the technology or the platforms, we're talking about Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and I'm just wondering whether other technology like Facebook live streaming or whatever has been considered. I'm just concerned with I know they're simple platforms, generally speaking, to those of us who have had exposure to different platforms, but some of the public, I'm wondering whether or not there might be simpler mechanisms like Facebook live streaming or things like that that would allow members to participate or at least observe without potential for complexity. I'm just wondering, Carl, whether or not any of that was considered at all.
Certainly, I can answer that. And it's not a one-size-fits-all. What we'll likely employ is a similar tactic to our board meetings and committee meetings, where we host the meeting on the platform, but as you suggested, it's then broadcasted live either through our YouTube channel or through Facebook. So when we need that engagement where we need to be able to interact with people, so in those one-on-ones, of course, we'll need the members to participate directly in the meeting. But for our public meeting platform, we will broadcast it to a platform people are most familiar with, which, as you mentioned, is Facebook or YouTube.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, I know. I believe the public are becoming more tech savvy with all of the accommodations. But thank you, John.
Of course.
I agree with you, Steve. Thank you very much. Any other question or comment for John? I see none. On the recommendation?
We have a mover and a seconder, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
we have a mover and a seconder on the recommendation. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We move to E, request of approval, funding application. I think there will be John, Rhonda, Michelle, and Sandra. I have 4 names, but should I read the recommendation first?
Sure.
Recommendation, the Board of Directors approve the submissions of the following funding applications. 1, Stormont Dundas Glengarry Regional Incentive Programs requesting $6,050 in cost share funding for property upgrade at Robert Graham Conservation Area in Princeton, including trail resurfacing, new culvert, and signage. 2, Ontario Heritage Development Grant requesting $545 in funding to promote public awareness of Ontario rich and diverse heritage. Number 3, Ontario Power Generation Sponsorship, requesting $1,500 sponsorship for the Reconciliation and Climate Change Planting event. Number 4, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Fund, requesting $1.5 million in cost share funding for conservation area infrastructure upgrades, including trails, boardwalks, bridges, and signage. 5, National Disaster Mitigation Program, intake 6, requesting up to $500,000 per project in cost share funding to complete hazard mapping and mitigation projects. And number 6, Wildlife Habitat Canada Habitat Conservation Stamp Program, requesting $50,000 for the restoration and enhancement of the Leitrim wetland. We need a seconder and mover and seconder, then we can now move to discussion. Michael, seconded by Jerry. Discussion, questions, staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll present this report on behalf of John, Sandra, Rhonda, and myself. So it's our regular grant application report, that we bring to you. And staff have identified the 6 funding opportunities to follow up with for different projects, as you heard. So the first one obviously was the Stormont Dundas Glengarry Regional Incentives Program, trail upgrades at Robert Graham Conservation Area. Then the Ontario Heritage Development Grant, as you heard, for specifically for production of displays and promotional materials, public programs, and special activities geared towards education and awareness around our community heritage. The Ontario Power Generation sponsorship, that was for the Reconciliation and Climate Change Planting event, and this one has been approved by OPG. So that one, it's a retroactive, and I should say the first 2 are retroactive requests as well, as the deadline for applications had passed. The 4th, the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Fund. This one is specifically, it's a new fund that was announced. It's for the COVID-19 resilience stream. So it's about getting people out into our properties, our conservation areas, to enjoy nature and do it safely. So it's to provide funding to upgrade as necessary for that. Now, for this one, the application has not been opened up yet, but we're anticipating a very short turnaround on this one, which is why we've brought it to the board. And the same is for the National Disaster Mitigation Program, Intake 6. Again, the application process hasn't opened yet, but same thing, we're anticipating, again, a very short turnaround. So we wanted to get the ball rolling, and we're currently in discussions with our partners and municipalities to look at priority streams to target for the next round of floodplain mapping. And the final one, the Wildlife Habitat Canada grant program, is for the Leitrim wetland specifically. We're looking to do some more work to restore water levels, enhance wildlife habitat, and remove invasive species. And we're going to be looking at combining this one with some of our infrastructure work in that park as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. This is very good. That's exactly that we've been talking about, how our staff is always proactive and looking for fund and looking for initiative and programs to help our conservation. So thank you very much. These are very, very important 6 applications. Very proud of all the work you do. So any question or comment for staff from the board? Archie?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, in intake number 5 and in 6, or 4 or 5, I guess, 1.5 million and then 500,000, it hasn't opened yet, and that'll be, you're saying, included in the 2021 budget. Are you going to budget like for the full 1.5 million, requesting the full board 1.5 million? Because at 80%, that would mean a 300,000 on our budget, and in the other one it would be 250,000 a cost sharing. If you're like, how are we going to? Like, I'm just looking at or thinking of budget time. There's 2 pretty big chunks of cash that will have to be included in the budget if you go for full amount.
Yeah, so we're also looking for partnerships. So in terms of the NDMP one, we look to our municipal partners as well to help with the cost share funding. And for the Infrastructure Canada, that one, the Wildlife Habitat Wildlife Habitat Canada grant, we're looking as cost share for that one, and also partnership funding. So it won't solely be SNC's contribution. We're looking for other partners as well, but full reports will be brought back to the board for review.
All right.
Well, yeah, just to say that we don't usually budget it until it's pretty much actual, like that we have a sense that it's actually going to be proceeding. We generally include a soft line item in the budget, usually at about 300,000, which is give or take what we would normally have as uncertain revenues. The other revenues we budget are always certain revenues before they're included into the budget.
Archie, supplement? You're good? Good, thank you. Any other question? Seeing none, I think we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carrie, thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Moving to F.
Oh, I'm sorry. I noticed a hand, Mrs. Taylor online.
I can't see her.
She's got her hand up.
That was my vote.
Oh, that was your vote. Well, that's good then. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move to F, request for approval, emblem tree planting. It's John, but I'll read the recommendation, then we can have the board of directors approve project expenditure for the emblem tree planting project at an approximate cost of 20,000 plus HST. Can I have a mover and seconder? Pierre, moved by Pierre, seconded by Steve. John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My report's found on pages 57 and 58 of your agenda package, and it's a request for project expenditure approval based on our purchasing policy limit. This report and project it was discussed in the slideshow this morning by Michelle, and it's in the Embrun area around the East York Creek Municipal Drain. There was an issue identified by municipal staff with some tree clearing and erosion issues around a newly constructed pedestrian bridge, and we were contacted by the municipality to help support some project planning initiatives to figure out what we can do to improve that area over the next few years, and as a starting point, work on a preliminary planting project in that area. At this point, the project's planned to take place in the next 2 weeks in that area to an approximate upset limit of $20,000.
Thank you very much, John. Any question or comment for John? Seeing none.
Guy, do you remove him a second? Yes, I do.
We have so it was Pierre and Steve.
Apologies.
All in favor on the recommendation? Carrie, thank you very much, John.
Thank
Next
you.
Item, it's also yours, I guess. Request for approval, St. Albert Dock Construction. I'll read the recommendation. The Board of Directors approved project expenditure at the St. Albert Conservation Area for the construction of a new dock, a total cost of approximately 15,000 plus HST. Can I have a mover and seconder? Francois, seconded by Danielle. And the floor is yours, John.
Thank you. So up on deck again on page 59. This is a similar project request. We're looking to approve expenditures to proceed with the construction of the new dock. But we have an interesting partnership at work here, which really has led to the success of us being able to work on this upgrade. You might recall earlier in the year, we were successful with the support of Nation Municipality to get some funding from the United Counties to support a new dock install. Since then, some councillors from the Nation Municipality have worked with some community partners to secure some additional funding so that we can build an even larger dock at that site. So we've got a few community partners that we'd like to shout out and thank, and that's obviously the United Counties of Prescott Russell, the municipality, the St. Albert Cheese Factory, La Caisse Populaire, and the St. Albert Community Group. All of them collectively, with our funding, are going to spend approximately $12,000 to $15,000 upgrading the dock there. And once complete, we hope to install next spring. Thank you.
This is a very good project. I see that we have lots of partnership and stakeholder in that, so this is Very important initiative. And do we have any question or comment for John? Seeing none, we already have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next one is on the agenda. We're moving to H, request for approval, purchasing policy update from Carl, page 60 to 70, and the recommendation, the board directors approve the purchasing policy as updated, and I'll let Carl move updating us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning again. So the purchasing policy has not been updated since 2013. And since 2013, the organization's work and our staffing structure have changed. The goal of this update is to streamline operations while maintaining strong financial controls. The updated policy was collated using information gathered from lower tier municipalities. We looked at the number of purchases made at various approval levels in recent budget years in our own internal purchases. The major changes are highlighted in the table, and I should highlight this is still, and by tradition, it's still very conservative when compared to lower tier municipalities. You'll typically see CAO approval levels around 25 to anywhere to $100,000. So you'll see we're still very conservative in that approach, but we're hoping to streamline operations and let the board focus on the strategic and the bigger purchases instead of these lower level ones that we sometimes have to bring.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carl. I'd like to have a mover and a seconder. Okay, Bill, mover, Michael, seconder. I see that we have a lot of explanation in the report. I'd like to have a discussion or comment. Francois.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. All right. I see board of directors and directors, they're up to 10,000, but can directors approve spending without a recommendation or a motion from the board?
Not as a single director unless you are one of the executive committee. So the 25,000 limit is for the full board of directors approval with quorum. Okay. The chair, vice chair, or past chair can approve up to 25,000.
Okay. It just, I see directors there.
I know.
I don't quite like that, but, and then we have some.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. So that the directors, that's a staff position. So at the moment, the only director position is Linda Hutchinson.
All right, now, okay with that. Because, and then it's a good practice too that we have in our municipality, whenever a significant amount, like $15,000, $25,000, they always give us a briefing note or a council, at the whole council, this is what happened. They have the authority, but we like to know anyways.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Francois. Any other question? Michael?
I'm very supportive of this report, and I recall about a year ago, Jerry and I had a funny conversation about what we call the Peter Principle, where our board passed a resolution to spend, I think it was about $1 million on something. I'm not sure what it was off the top of my head, but it was a large amount of money. We then proceeded to spend 20 minutes debating the purchase of a $15,000 car. And I remember Jerry saying to me, this is nuts. We shouldn't be, if we are large and strategic, we have to have confidence in the recommendations of staff. We shouldn't be debating the purchase of a GM vehicle, and I think this is about modernizing the organization. So I'm very supportive of the report. I have a sneaky suspicion Jerry is too.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Michael.
And I think it doesn't have to be written, but it goes without being written that, and it's understood that any time these expenditures are made, as per the question from a previous speaker, there will be a report to council.
Thank you, Bill. I just, Carl, how long ago were they? I know you said long time, but how long ago we haven't been updating our extension?
It was last updated in 2013.
7 years.
So just for the board, I mean, I'm looking at the number and I know we had this discussion, but if you go back 7 years ago, since 2013, how much you could, what will buy you 25,000 or 10,000 and what will buy you 25,000 today? I think the number are very conservative, and I'm glad you checked with other municipalities and other boards, so thank you very much for that work. We have a mover and seconder. Any other discussion or comment?
I'm not sure, Mr. Chair, but I see a hand online.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Angela. So I'd just like an example of something that the chair, the vice chair, the past chair would need to give approval to for amount of $25,000. And I just want to reconfirm that any of these approvals are basically based on budget. So you wouldn't be spending something that hadn't been budgetized, right?
That's correct. Not everything that we spend, though, is fully itemized in the budget. You know, there may be contracted services itemized, which breaks out into a couple of different things. So what I'm hearing is, so an example of something that would fall within the new approval limit for the executive committee would be the dock purchase that John just brought, or we've often needed peer review for floodplain mapping. That often goes just over the just into the board approval limit, but nowhere near the new one of 25,000. So those would be two recent examples. Well, what I'm hearing is that you're perhaps asking for if something is above general manager signing limit and to be approved by one of the executive committees, that's the level that you'd like brought back to the board as an an FYI this was approved. Is that correct?
Well, no, it would be, yes, to just kind of hear that payment had been made and within that realm that they've had to do something in that approval, just to get comfortable with the fact that it's gone up to that amount. I know it seems pretty conservative to everybody else at the table, but it seems like a fair amount to me. But just making sure that it's already in the budget before the check is on. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your information.
Michael?
Just very briefly, folks, I will, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just note as well, though, we do receive money filed report pretty much at every board meeting. Like I'm staring at page AGM and the following pages. And I'm just saying to you that you do have an opportunity to see expenditures, and nothing stops any board member from saying, I'm looking at, item number 19379. What's that about? What did you spend it on? So I'm not suggesting that giving a note to the board, but I suggest to you, we already do get notes of expenditures in our standard package already.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much, Michael. Any other question or comment?
Mr. Chair, one other comment is that very often board members don't bring it up at a meeting, but they call directly to check in advance to confirm that an expenditure is what it is, and that goes along with the budget. So a lot of this is being done regularly, and I think staff is prepared for those questions always.
Thank you very much, Bill, for your comment. Any other comment or question? We have a mover and we have a seconder on the recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item is I, and it is request for approval 2021 fee schedule by Allison. I'll read the recommendation. The Board of Directors approved the 2021 fee schedules as presented, and I know that it was in the minute, and then I'm not sure if you have a copy, but it was sent and distributed on the website on your package, and I just want to have a mover and seconder before we get Allison to present. We have Danielle and Dana, second by Dana. Allison, go ahead, present it, please.
Good morning, board. So every year we bring our fee schedule update to you. Our standard increase is 2%. This is consistent with other municipal fee schedules within the area. As you know, South Nation applies a user pay principle to development with a goal of making our services self-sufficient and reducing impact on levy. Our fee schedule is designed to cover the costs associated with administering and delivering our services. It's also important to note that we discuss our fees with our conservation partners that work within the City of Ottawa. So we did reach out to both Rideau Valley and Mississippi Valley prior to preparing the fee schedule. The table that's noted in the report, 71 to 72 pages, indicates where there were some slight clarifications made. For example, within the planning schedule, we wanted to clarify our site plan fees, make those more consistent with our municipalities. We added a reduced ancillary building fee, which was something Rideau Valley had added that we felt was appropriate in our Schedule B conservation permits. Added some clarification notes and technical reviews. These notes are things that help our staff who are collecting fees explain to the public, why they're being billed, when they're being billed, and add transparency, which is obviously part of our client service policy. And you'll also see on Schedule E, 2% increase was applied to our septic schedule. That is per our agreements with our municipalities. So that's already kind of written in year to year. So these updates were all made in compliance with our new planning and approvals fee administration policy, which we enacted last year. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Alison. Can we have any question or any comment for Alison? Seeing none, and I just to clarify that those are fees that they will be in effective not till next year anyway for January 2021, right? I'm assuming.
Yep, we send them out at Christmas time.
And you just mentioned that you checked across the board with all other municipalities, and the 2% is the number that we're going with.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Alison. And Michael, you have a question?
I'm very supportive of the fee schedule. I think it's appropriate. While I do appreciate that certainly sometimes we have mom-and-pops, we also do have developers. As I noted earlier, the price of land has gone up quite a bit in just this last year, and it's entirely fair and appropriate to charge a reasonable fee for a reasonable service. And certainly, I looked at the CPI index, and this is totally in line with CPI, so it seems fair to me.
Thank you very much, Michael. We have any other question or comment? So on the recommendation as presented, any in favor? I see all hands up, and maybe there. Thank you very much, Kerry. Next is K, update planning activity. Alison again.
Mr. Chair, it's actually J, I think.
Is it okay? Sorry about that. Yeah, update on-site sewage permit issued Alison on page 74.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Recommendation, the SNC board director will receive and file the list of permits issued under Part 8 of the Ontario Building Code on-site sewage system. We need a mover. Bill, mover, seconder by Michael. Alison, go ahead with the update, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've started bringing an update on our Part 8 building permits issued by Monique and her team. During non-COVID times, it would be Monique giving you this report, but to ease the process, I'm here. We wanted to make sure that you're aware of all the permits going out. We are having a very busy year in the septic department. Lots of people doing both renovations, but also a lot of new construction in the rural area and private services. So this provides you with a list of the permits. You'll see we're up to about 253 permits issued.
Thank you very much. This is it shows how busy our staff are being lately during COVID and during construction season. We have any question or comment on the update for Alison?
Just a really fast comment that I found the name of item number 223, House of Lazarus. Wow, that sounds interesting. I don't know what it is, but Anyway,
They,
no.
I believe it's in South Mountain it's in South Mountain, I believe they offer a, almost like a thrift service.
Okay.
It's a very well-loved organization. They work very hard in that community. So we're happy to actually work with them on I believe they're changing buildings there and trying to upgrade the service they offer. So yeah, it was close to a lot of people's heart, including I'm sure former Chair Bill.
I hadn't heard of it, so that's great to hear.
Thank you, thank you, Michael. Thank you for the clarification. Bill?
And it is in Mountain, and the Bank of Nova Scotia had a building that it donated to them, and so they're changing what they do and where they do it, and just giving more space to themselves. So this is the reason for the request, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Bill. Any other question or comment? Sure, I have a question, Mr. Chair. Please go ahead, Dan. So, you mentioned that the number of, how do you call it, the permits increased. Do we have enough staff capable to handle this increased number of permits?
I think the question was, do we have enough staff?
Yes, or
the gist of it? Yeah, so we haven't increased our staffing level on inspectors or our official, but we have been able to retain a very excellent a returning student who's offered a lot of front desk support. A lot of the increased workload is around managing the calls, the people, sort of the demands, the timelines. So, the staff have been working extra hard. They've been as efficient as possible, but really we've seen the team pull together. We have a little extra support from this student. We retain 2 days a week. And with that, we're getting by, but I'd be remiss to not say we're hoping it slows down eventually so we can catch our breath. But we're doing okay.
But not too.
Thank you very much, and it's amazing to see how efficient you guys are in these times and with this increased number of applications for permits. It's amazing. Thank you very much. I echo that. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you very much for the comment. Any other question or comment for Allison? We already have a mover on the seconder on the recommendation in favor. I see all hands. And Carrie, thank you very much. Thank you, Allison. We're not done yet. We still have Kay.
Still on.
Update planning activity recommendation. The board director receive and file the planning activities update. We need a mover and seconder, please. Francois, mover, seconder by Archie. Thank you very much. Allison, go ahead with the update, please.
Again, so this is for the planning portion of the approvals department. Again, lots of applications, seeing site plan control, which is nice. You're seeing a lot of site plan control usually means we're getting multi-unit buildings on the market. So seeing a lot of multi-unit buildings, some new condos, some new apartment buildings as well, some affordable housing coming online, which is really important. Seeing lots of subdivisions moving. James is seeing a lot of activity in the city of Ottawa. Everyone's really trying to push to get these houses to market right now while the market is so good. We're also seeing lots of technical reviews, which is great. Stormwater management reviews are busy, and lots of complex files as well involving the engineering team. So those updates are there. We're still operating well. We lost one of our planners, Brad, back in March, I think. But James and I have again had such great support from our team that it's been okay. We've been getting through it.
Thank you very much, Allison. I have a question from the floor. Francois.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Allison, after all these years, I still have questions and unknown. Application, consent. Can you elaborate for that, please?
What a consent is?
Yeah.
It's a severance.
Okay.
But a severance, so a consent can be severance, easement, they call it correction of title. There's various things under the consent process. So that's the formal name, but generally it's for a severance of land.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francois. Any other question or comment to Allison? I don't see anything on the screen. Seeing none, you have the recommendation in front of you. On the recommendation, all in favor? Carrie, thank you very much. Thank you, Allison. And now we move to L, request for approval permit issued. This is Jeff, but I'll read the recommendation. The SNC Board of Directors approved permit 103 to 126 issued under Ontario Regulation 17806 development interference with wetlands and alternations to shorelines and watercourses. We need a mover and a seconder, please. Dana, mover, seconded by Archie. And go ahead, Jeff. Jeff is not here.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, you're stuck with me again, but I know Jeff would love. Thank you. I know Jeff would love to be able to give this report to you guys, but I'll try to do him justice. He's been busy as well. Obviously, lots of permits you'll see from the listing there, but I think more importantly, the number of occurrences he's been dealing with under the regulatory program. I think someone made a reference to, you know, how people are feeling during COVID, and we're certainly seeing people you know, giving us difficult situations, neighbor disputes, lots of people kind of rushing through processes to, you know, missing steps like getting permits. So Jeff's been busy out there. He's also had great help from Eric in our approvals department. He's been assisting with some site visits and difficult legal and policy files, which has been great. And another shout out to Brent Harbers, who's also been doing some site visits for Jeff. So Jeff's been well supported out there, and generally people are pretty good to deal with once you get through those first few difficult conversations and kind of let them know where they stand. So I think things are going well and Jeff's very busy. And if there's any questions on his report here, you can pass them on to me and I'll do my best.
Thank you very much, Allison. Seeing any question or any comment from the Mr. Chair, once again, I just want to congratulate the staff for the tremendous work that they put during this time. It's amazing to me. And I look at this list, they are like so long, yet they are so efficient. And, you know, it's commendable for that. Thank you very much, Dina, and I echo that with you, but I totally understand. Jeff's job is very difficult, and I'm happy to see Eric and all the teams gathering behind him to help him, to support him during this difficult time. We are all municipal leaders here, and some of us work at this municipality. We know how these issues could be very, it become very aggressive between neighbors and people upset and lots of conflict, and Jeff has always handled himself professionally, and he represents the South Nation Conservation Authority very well out in the field. I agree with you, Dana. Thank you. Any other question or comment for Jeff throughout? Seeing none, we have the recommendation in front of you. On the recommendation, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Allison, and pass our gratitude to Jeff. Number 7. We have financial report on our financial report on page 81 to 84. Request for approval, money received and disbursement registered for August 2020. And we have Carl. I read the recommendation. The Board of Directors receive and file the money received report for August 2020. And further that the Board approved the disbursement registered of $460,374.43 for August 2020. Can I have a mover and seconder? Dana, seconded by Francois. Thank you, Carl. Any question or comment for Carl? Archie.
Yeah, I guess Michael is right, like you can always ask questions, sort of. What number is it? It's on page 84 near the bottom. Landscape illustration, I think it's 9378. Did we pay somebody to do a landscape illustration?
Yeah, I think John will step in on this one.
Sure, that's actually some graphic design and illustration. That's graphic illustration support for some projects that we're working on, specifically our natural heritage study.
Okay.
That bill is not just for one illustration, but for several activities to support several projects. Thank you.
Should have been a
Thanks, Archie. Any other question or comment? We have a mover and seconder. On the recommendation, all in favor? Okay, thank you very much. I see Peggy's hand up. Next is number 8. We have supplement agenda. Everybody have their supplement agenda? Number 1 on the supplement agenda, request for approval of NCC committee meeting highlights and minutes of A, communication committee meeting of September 9, 2020. John?
I'll refer questions on to page 4.
And B, water response team meeting of September 10, 2020. Page, supplement agenda, page 16 to 20. And number C, clean water committee meeting of September 14, 2020 on supplement agenda 21 to 28.
So moved.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Michael. Any question or comment for staff?
I have a hand, and I note that this is the time when we have the
Yes,
declaration of conflict. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what it was about. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just noted that Peggy declared conflict on, I think, the communication, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yes.
Can we, Bill, go ahead.
A comment I have is that this committee allocated a lot of cash to a lot of different areas, and they had a great deal of discussion as they were doing it. So I think it was extremely well done. But I want to remind each of you that you have $300 available to you to be shared or used in your communities to either one or more groups. And if you haven't considered giving that or using it, do so now or else give it to me.
So make sure if you don't spend the money like you're here, Bill would like to use them all. Thank you, Bill. Any other comment or question? On the recommendation and on the request of approval SNC committee meeting highlights and minutes, all in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 2A, it's a financial report on page 29. And recommendation, the board directors receive and file the estimated statement of operation for the year ending December 31st, 2020 as of August 31st, 2020 update, and I think Linda will have the report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, board. This is the report that comes to you monthly, and the leadership team continues to monitor and forecast expenditures and, of course, revenues. And at this point in time, we're estimating a surplus approximately $80,000. We will continue to monitor and update this report into October, and then, of course, getting ready for budget in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and I'm sorry, I should have had a mover and a seconder for that. So mover and seconder for Archie, moved and seconded by Jerry. Thank you. And any question or comment for Linda? Michael, go ahead.
Linda, in your assessment, how are we doing this year in terms of previous years, in terms of where we are in terms of the surplus at this time versus previous years past?
Well, it is a little challenging this year with COVID, of course, but on the expenditure side, we have seen some reduced expenditures when it comes to, of course, some of the costs around the board and committees and some of the costs related to traveling and attending conferences, external meetings, and so on. So we have seen some savings there. We have some revenue coming in on a new project. Of course, we recognize that early on in the year through OPG. So some reduced revenue, but also we have seen some reduced expenditure. So we're monitoring each line pretty closely.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Linda. We have Steve.
Yes, thanks, Linda. And I'm not sure whether this question goes to you or not, but I'm just wondering, again, whether there's any update on any financial support that's being given by the province or by the feds in support of some of the additional expenses that COVID is putting on the business?
Yes, we did access and receive the temporary wage subsidy. We're also, we have been successful, and we will continue to apply to, I think it's Eco Canada and Canada Job Service for some of our additional part-time contracts. Some of our summer students were covered off via wage subsidies. And as has been mentioned in the past, we are recording all of our costs for the COVID-related supplies and staff time that we have taken to ensure our building is nice and clean.
That's a very good question. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, Linda. Next question. Next is Bill.
Two things. First is, did we qualify for the $40,000 loan, interest-free loan that could be gotten?
Sorry, the 25.
There was a $40,000 interest-free loan that could be applied for. Did we apply for, or did we qualify for?
We did not apply for that particular loan.
Thank you. And I'm presuming that by early November, there will be a budget draft prepared to present to executive in advance of, and the staff in advance of the board meeting on the 19th, or on the November.
Yes, correct.
Thank you very much, Bill. Any, Michael?
Just one note that I think we have to keep in mind as well that, you know, in addition to, I'll say, limited resources available to us from the province and federal government based on who we are, we have to also remember that, if I'm not mistaken, it was about a year ago, the province cut the transfers that they were giving historically to conservation authorities. So we have to always keep in mind, we frankly went into this year with a deeper hole. It wasn't a small cut, it wasn't a cosmetic cut, I think it was half. It was cut right in half what we used to get. And, you know, there were always those of us on the board in previous iterations of the board that would say, you know, the province keeps on giving us less and less and less. But I'll tell you this, you know, when they're offering you 200 and then they go, oh, you know what, we're only going to offer you 80. That's a big drop in revenue that you're budgeting on. So there are challenges that were already here before COVID. And COVID just, I think, maximizes it.
I agree. Thank you very much. Any other question?
I can make one comment, Mr. Chair, if I can manage to get this mask and glasses and everything together.
Go ahead, Angela.
I just want to say too, we did talk about the volume of permits, and it is a time when right now things are really very busy. As we look at and we haven't hired additional staff for that, partly because at this time we've had, number one, a fantastic staff that have reallocated, reprioritized, and signed up for any tasks they've been asked to do. So and on behalf of all of you, we have to thank them for that. So as we watch these surpluses, if we are able to generate surpluses coming in, it's really because of the good work of those people. And like I said, part of the hesitation in hiring more staff is not knowing where exactly this influx of permitting is going. So I thank them, and I thank you for your patience as we really do try to adapt on the day by day of how we're running our business to make sure our business is protected from changes.
Thank you very much, Angela, and I'm sure the board will echo, and we thank everyone who's been working behind the scene we understand the influx, and we know the capacity that we're running under right now at this, specifically under COVID, and I know that we are very limited, but the resources that we have and staff, you can hear it in their voice and you can hear it from their presentation, how they are collectively working together and supporting each other, and that shows the leadership. So thank you, and thank them all individual for all their hard work and being part of the team. We really appreciate all the hard work. I know that the board really, really proud of all of you and all the work you do. Thank you very much. I guess thank you very much, Angela, for your comment, and I think we have the recommendation in front of us. Any last comment or question on the recommendation? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Linda. And number 3, it's closed session, so do we need a motion to, so we have a mover by Bill, seconded by Michael, that we move to closed session, and we'll give, I think, Carl a few minutes to prepare for the closed session.
Yes, and again, for the record, for anyone watching online, the purpose of the closed session is to go into closed session to discuss properties and matters dealing with land, specifically land acquisition within the South Nation watershed. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Angela. All
We
in
have
favor?
5-minute break too.
Sure.
And we'll give Archie a break, 5-minute break. How is that? Is that good?
That was much faster.
Diane, just a heads up, you'll have to unmute the room when you're ready to go back into open. Thank you.
He came in on the Monday
Carl?
morning, 11 o'clock. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we had.
Mr. Chair, we ready?
Yep, we're ready. We had another viewing on the Tuesday in the morning from people from Lévis, Quebec. Then on 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the house was sold free offer on Tuesday night.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion for open.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the meeting?
Moved by Michael Graham.
And seconded by Mayor Leroux. All in favor? Okay, we're on session. Thank you very much, everyone. So, there was no decision made or anything. We had a quick presentation, and I think we have a motion. We have a motion prepared by our general manager.
So the first motion I can read for the board, if that's of assistance, is on page number 85 of that's the confidential part of the agenda package. Recommendation is the board of directors approve the acquisition of the subject property to an upset limit as discussed, plus ancillary costs, and that the board of directors approve the transfer of reserve funds to require the subject land.
Thank you very much, Angela. Do we have a mover and seconder? Dan, Danielle, and Michael. Any question or discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Second resolution comes from the supplemental agenda package, which I'm writing on. And the supplemental agenda package on page number 31 and 32 deals with properties 2 and 3. And Mr. Chair, would you like me to read those for you?
If you don't mind, please go ahead.
Okay, the recommendation on 31 and 32 is that the board of directors approve the acquisition of property 2 to an upset limit as discussed, plus ancillary costs, and further that the board of directors approve the acquisition of property 3, approve negotiations on property 3 to an upset limit as discussed, plus ancillary costs, and then further that the board of directors approve the transfer of reserve funds to acquire property number 2.
Do we have a mover and seconder? Francois and Dana. Any discussion or question? I think we all had our question answered. On the motion, all in favor? Any dissent? It's carried. Thank you very much. So that's all the business, I think, from the closed session, and then we move to adjournment. No, I guess we have correspondence. Sorry. We have number
We
9.
have no correspondence.
So at 10, we have dates of upcoming meetings, third Thursday at 9 a.m. unless indicate otherwise. So we keep monitoring the situation with COVID and what's going on. We probably will, maybe our general manager will circulate email on how we're gonna move forward with our October meeting. So Dana, you have a question? Do we have the choice to participate online rather than in person?
Absolutely. There's no pressure for anyone to feel that they must attend in person, and it seemed to go pretty. Peggy, was it okay today in online?
I think the only comment that I'd have is that I did put my hand up to move and second motions, and just because you're in the room, the tendency is to look around the room, and so you're missed if you're online.
Yes.
And thank you, Peggy. And I did recommend it next time in the next meeting, if we're here and we have Zoom participation, to have a screen here, because it's hard to see that far where the hand is too small. You can't see it from where we're sitting, but you can't see the name and you can barely see the hand.
Oh, okay.
I know
it's a learning curve to sort of go down this road, And I had intended to be there, but I just have had some changes, and so it's best if I, for family reasons, stay around here.
No, so we'll adjust
Yeah.
and we'll see. We might think about if we want to do the dividers as well, but probably that would affect the stay on. We just adjust as we go. I think
Yes,
that's all
I
we
think-
can do, right?
Well, and plus we have to see the number and what's going on in
Yeah.
the CRC. So the next meeting will be October 15, and the follow will be December 17 and January 21st. Further motion to the board or discussion on SNC issue? Michael?
Just very quickly, I'll blitz through it. I know that Christina left us, I think, from CRCA, but I'd remind all of you, here are the things that I can tell you this board does better, in my opinion, than CRCA. We do our meetings in the morning. We have staff seeking donations, not a foundation, which is often people by well-meaning volunteers who come and go. We have a smaller professional board. There is less of an urban-rural divide in our makeup. We do professional development of board members. We encourage participation of board members in committees. We use a consensus style of approach. That doesn't mean we don't have healthy debate, but I think there's just a higher level of consensus at this board, generally speaking, from day to day. We also encourage staff to get to know the board via presentations to the board, but we also appreciate the board's primary role and interlink with staff is via the executive and the general manager. I think these are all things that make our organization, frankly, better. George, I'll be leaning on you, I guess, that we have a Cumberland by-election coming up on October 5th. There are 10 candidates running. When it's 10 candidates, it could be anybody who wins. Whoever it is, I hope they'll be brought up to speed on the good work we're doing with our organization. And I know, George, you'll take the lead on that, but I just think it's so important, especially given the massive deficit the city of Ottawa is facing this year and the tough decisions that are going to have to be made. 3, feels like forever ago, but in February, I had the pleasure of attending the by-election victory campaign of Councillor Stephen Blais, who is now a member of provincial parliament. I want to stress I am not affiliated with his political party in any way whatsoever, but I did attend to just shake his hand and wish him all the best from us. In fact, it was the last large public gathering I actually attended, to be honest, until today, frankly. But I was able to congratulate him and just wish him well and tell him not to forget about us. And he assured me at that time that he would keep the lessons he learned at South Nation in mind, and he will always be open to listening to us. And then finally, my wife is pregnant with twins. Yeah, so she's due technically December 4th, but it's with twins, it's any time. So the point is just that I've said to Angela and Diane, I am so glad we did this meeting today in person. I think it was absolutely necessary, but I appreciate that we've got this spike in COVID. Who knows what October and November hold? But for me in particular, I am glad that they can accommodate online attendance as they did with Peggy today, because for obvious reasons, I may be reluctant to be too far away from my home with my wife expecting. Okay?
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
And congratulations anyway.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, get some clarification. So Bill mentioned that we can still use our discretionary funds for $300. I apologize.
I think you missed the motion that Bill put it on.
Oh, yes, okay, yeah, thank you. So, are there, what's the word, criteria involved on how we can dispense on
Yeah, you can speak to John, he'll help you.
John, okay, and is a deadline? Is there a deadline?
He's waving there, he's like, he can't wait for you to call him.
Yay! Okay.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Oh, look at you, buddy. I can't wait.
No, it was very
Okay,
happy.
John. All right, okay, that was all from you.
Thank you, Dana.
John.
We're good? Peggy, you're good?
We have an experimental, like a bagged lunch available.
So I was gonna mention, I read the email, and if I read the email right, Angela sent us very strict rules, and that we will pick up our lunch bag and we'll go outside and eat it outside. It's a beautiful day for the people who wish to join us out for lunch. But I do want to take a moment. Thank you very much. I know it was my first time chairing this meeting. I promise you, I'll improve slowly when I go with the flow, but thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to serve this board.
Mr. Chair, could I suggest you recognize Peggy as moving the ending of the meeting?
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. So before anybody with anything else, we have a motion to adjourn, and I see Peggy moves our motion and seconded by Bill. Motion, meeting adjourned. Thank you. All in favor? We're good. Thank you very much,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well done, Mr. Chair.
That,